Now, there are 12 signs in the Mazzaroth. We call them by the Gentile names, Virgo down to Leo. But it's interesting, each one of these is assigned to one of the tribes. The tribes is ascribed to the symbols, not the pagan symbols, but the original pre-Babylon labels. And it's interesting that we have three of these. Zebulun, Issachar, and Judah are the camp of Judah. Benjamin, Manasseh, and Ephraim are the camp of Ephraim. And Gad, Simeon, and Reuben are the camp of Reuben. And then Naphtali, Asher, and Dan, the camp of Dan. And they have tribal symbols for each one of them, but for the camp of Dan, it's the eagle. It was originally the serpent, but then it was an eagle with a serpent in its mouth, and it becomes the eagle. And then the man and the ox, which become very similar to the symbols that are still echoed in the pagan corruption of these things. But it's interesting when they camp Dan's on the north, Reuben on the south, Ephraim on the west, Judah on the east. Let's take a look at how in Numbers chapter 2, if you take this, you can lay this all out for yourself. Obviously, in the middle of the camp is the tabernacle, and around that tabernacle is the place for the Levites. And the door of the tabernacle is opening to the eastward, the bottom on our chart here. So the Levites, the Moses and the priests are on the eastern side. Those are the descendants of Aaron. But the other three families, the Kohathites, Gershonites, and Merarites, camped on the southwest north side of the tabernacle itself. But that whole area was reserved for the Levites. Now, understand the precision of the rabbis. Camp of Judah was to camp east of the Levites. The camp of Reuben was to camp south of the Levites. Now, if you're going to be strictly following the rules, that denies you the area called southeast. Because if you're southeast, you're no longer east of the Levites or south of the Levites. You with me? And so only the cardinal directions are going to be ordained, because Judah is told to camp east of the Levites, Reuben south of the Levites, and so on, all the way around. So I don't know how big the camp of Levites were, but whatever it was, we're going to use that as a unit to lay this out. The width of the Levites is whatever it is. We're going to make then each of these camps are going to be proportional to the population. So if we take a look at the Levites, they have the tabernacle in the middle, and it turns out if you add the Gershonites, Kohathites, Merarites, add it all together, you got about 22,000 people there. However many they take to camp, whatever size that is, that's our unit. Okay, well, Judah has to camp east of the Levites, which means they can camp as wide as the Levites are, and they take as much as they need. They have areas that are prohibited. They can't go southeast or northeast. That's not following the directions. They tried very hard to follow directions. Reuben, likewise, with the symbol of the man, the camp of Reuben would be to the south. And likewise, Ephraim, with the symbol of the ox, camps to the west, and Dan, with the eagle, camps to the... Now, how much space do they need? Well, that's proportion to their populations, whatever that width is. Okay, we know what the populations are nominally. Judah's 186,000. This is all out of Numbers chapter 2. And both Reuben and Dan are roughly 150,000. The largest is Judah with 186. The smallest is Ephraim with 108. Let's take a helicopter and get some altitude here and see what this thing looked like from the air. The camp of Israel, if it followed the directions that are in the Torah, would lay out like a cross, with the longest arm being at the arm of Judah. When Balaam is looking down from the mountains to advise Balak, that's probably what he would be seeing. I think that's interesting. And the four ensigns that are right around conform to the four faces of the cherubim that are around the throne of God. The lion, the ox, the man, and the eagle. So I think that's kind of fun.